and I'd like to welcome you all to Spring Street Gallery's first online artist conversation with Takeyce Walter. So Takeyce, well, first let me say who I am. So I'm Belinda Colón. I'm the director of Spring Street Gallery. I've been working at Spring Street Gallery now for about 8 years. I worked under Maureen Sager for 6 of those years, took about a year off, and then came back and helped out as the current director. I also have a couple other hats that I wear. I'm in the on the Arts Commission in Saratoga Springs, and I work at the Art Center of the Capital Region as well. So I do try to share as much of all of that with, you know, the wealth of all the artists with everyone in this region, and try to, you know, bring everybody together within the Capital Region and the North Country. So Takeyce, would you like to start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Takeyce Walter, and I'm a creative. I live in Round Lake, where I also have my studio, where I'm coming to you from tonight. Studio is in my backyard, and like Belinda, as a creative, I wear a few hats. I am an artist, a fine artist who works with oil and pastels, and I'm also an art instructor, and I'm a media producer as well, working in video production.
You're busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a mom.
So. And a mom. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. So right now, currently, you have a show at Spring Street Gallery. Do you want to talk about that show and what led you to creating some of that work?
Absolutely. So the show is titled Reflections on Preservation, and we picked that title because all the pieces that are in the show are all lands and waters that have been preserved by the Nature Conservancy Adirondack chapter. In late 2018, I joined the board of the Nature Conservancy and was so moved and admired by the work that they do, the stuff that I think is the hard work. They tackle a lot of the hard problems like climate change and animal migration and trying to save different species that are in the area, that I wanted to do something to help the community learn about the work that they're doing. And as an artist, you know, I'm not a scientist, so I couldn't help them in that regard. But as an artist, I could help them really bring that connection of the importance of the space, not so much the ecological importance, but the importance to a person's well-being. Because whenever I go to the Adirondacks, I seek that space for peace and calm. I'm a very busy person, have a very busy mind, and my creating of art and being in nature is something that helps to ground me. So back in 2014, again, being a busy mom and trying to manage life with young children, a teenager, and work, I was rarely finding time to create art. So when my birthday came, actually in January of that year, I decided to give myself a gift of time to paint, time to spend, whether it's just creating art, whether it's drawing or painting or just consuming art. I gave that gift to myself, and my friend Kate, who also shares my birthday, I roped her into the project, and we were actually pretty successful that first year, and we actually had a show at the Spring Street Gallery. And subsequent years, we've opened it up to other artists. We now have a group on Facebook, and that has been something that I look forward to during the winter months. And in speaking with Peg Olson, who's the director at the Nature Conservancy, I said, you know, this would be a really neat thing to tie in the work that the Nature Conservancy is doing and my Creative February project. So that's when we created Creative Adirondacks. And this past February, which seems like eons ago, you know, with how the world has changed. Um, I worked with the Nature Conservancy to sometimes I went on site. So I would visit a preserve. And we had this planned, I think, for a year prior to this Creative February 2020. So I would make trips to a few of the preserves and just document them. I have a couple of sketches that I did on site and some videos. I think they're on my website or my Facebook. You guys can check those out, of me visiting the preserves and painting there. And for the places that I couldn't get to, we worked with different artists and different photographers that have worked with the Nature Conservancy to provide those images. And
Wow.
yeah, it was just an incredible project. And bummed that we can't all be there celebrating in person, but you know, it's a new world and we're, you know, making new normals. So happy that it was able to get online.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have it as well. So what I'm
Mhm.
going to do now is I'm going to share my screen for a moment and just sort of go through some of the imagery. And would you mind
Sure,
talking about some of it? All
sure,
right, so I'm
sure.
going to go ahead to the website and show some of your work here. So can you all see the screen with her images on it? Good. Good. All right. So what I'm going to do is click on the images, Takeyce, and we'll just kind of go through them. If there's, you know, if you want me to slow down or go faster, just let me know.
Sure.
But this was day one, so we're starting with
Yeah,
day one.
yeah, this is great. This is like almost like a journal going back to this time. So day one, it was fitting to start with this property. This is the Santonini property that the Nature Conservancy helped to preserve. It was actually the first project that they worked on 46 years ago when they got started. And this is the artist cottage that's on the property. And this was one of the trips where I took on site. And I hadn't cross country skied in maybe like 8, 9 years. And the Nature Conservancy crew, you know, they're out and about all the time. They're, you know, winter, summer, all season. They're on the skis. They're, you know, just getting around to the preserves for maintenance or whatever that's needed. And they were like, yeah, you know, we should go to this preserve, but keep in mind it's a 10-mile cross country ski trip. And I'm like, oh,
Wow.
I mean, how hard can that be?
When you haven't done it in a while,
Yeah,
exactly.
haven't done it in 10 years, but you know, I'm always up for an adventure. So I dusted off the old skis and we went to Santonini and it was fantastic. I mean, after the first mile, I was totally overdressed. I was like dripping wet. um, but it was great. It was fun. It's a beautiful property. And when we got there, it's just fascinating to see the structures and learn the history about the family who owned the property. And the architecture was based off of Japanese style, which I find so interesting to have that, you know, culture up in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And this um, this cottage is like a dream cottage with a beautiful window that's overlooking the lake. So from this perspective, I'm actually on Santonini Lake, looking that's frozen and looking towards the cottage.
Oh, wow. So that edge
Yeah.
right there is actually you on the edge of the lake.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That definitely puts
Yeah.
it into a different perspective.
Yeah.
Wow. And so what I'll do is I'll go through a few, and if you
Sure.
want me to stop and you have something specific to talk about in each of them, which I'm sure you could tell a story for each one,
Of course.
you know, we can just go through some of them. And if you have a story, just let me know.
Sure. Yeah, this was also Camp Santonini. It was just a brook that we cross country skied, and I heard this rushing sound of water, but I couldn't see where the water was.
Oh, wow.
And I looked across and I looked down, you know, on the side, off the side of the trail, and saw this stream that was covered with snow. It was really beautiful. I love the way the light was hitting all the trees and the shadows.
And this one's a little smaller. Sorry, it's a little harder to
So
see.
that's all right. This one
There we
is the Boquet River outlet. So this river flows into Lake Champlain. And this was a photo that was provided to me.
go. Okay. Wow.
This is a really popular one. This is the Boreas Ponds, and this I think is a very classic view. If you go on Instagram or you do a search for Boreas Pond, you'll see this view in all seasons.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, this one's one of my favorites.
I can imagine with the mountain view and the clouds and everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Frozen Falls.
Yeah. And this one is the OK Slip Falls, frozen in winter. I really love the light in this one.
Do you have a favorite?
Oh,
sorry, I'll go back.
No, go ahead.
Do you have any favorites of all the 28? Wait, this year was 29 because it was a leap
29.
year. 29, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
So when you get there, you gotta let me know which ones are your favorites.
Yeah, the Boreas Ponds that we just passed, that was one of my favorites, and also the Artist Cottage. That's one of my favorites.
The beginning
and the
too.
first one.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and this is I wish I had the name of the location, but I forget the name of this mountain. But this image was provided to me, and I found it so interesting how the trees just take on such character when they're laden with the snow and the shadows. This was provided by one of the staff people at the Nature Conservancy that she took on a ski trip.
So it's interesting because as we go through these, the environment changes within the weather
Yes.
and atmosphere. So this will be interesting as we start going, how comfortable it gets because we start to feel a little warmer as we're going.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was a part of the project. I wanted to present the Adirondacks in all of its glory, so all year. So we worked from winter into spring to summer and fall. Yeah. And this one is great. I actually have at some point I'll grab it and show it to everyone. But this was one that was special because this was another trip that we took out into the field to Mossy Cascades in Keene. We went up with the Nature Conservancy folks, and a couple of press people joined us too, which was pretty cool. I have to say that was my first time having the paparazzi around while I was painting. Adirondack Life was there, and North Country Public Radio was there too, and they did a feature on this trip, which was fantastic.
And I've known you to go to Keene quite a bit as like one of your spots that you've shared with me before. So it's really nice that you get to add that into this list of And early spring.
Yeah, this is also on the Boquet. I kept saying bouquet, but I've been corrected that it's the Boquet River. And this is also, I found out when I went to visit, I visited this place in the fall and found out the importance of this waterway and how the Nature Conservancy tracks salmon. Like, this is a route for salmon, and they haven't been there naturally in a number of years. And I believe last year, the year before, was the first year that they returned.
Wow.
So yeah. So all through this project, I've learned so much about the environment and just about the connection that we all have, not just, us human animals, but the other animals who inhabit this place as well.
Wow.
And I forget where this was. But I love this image. I just love the way the pines were just so tall and strong, and you had this little path going through and the new leaves are coming in.
Okay, slip.
Yeah, this is the same falls that we had in winter, but now in early spring. And this was a fun one to do. I just loved the rocks. Here's another one of my favorites.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, this was I called it Paddler's Paradise because I just feel like you could just be in a kayak going through this. And this location is the Essex Chains of Lakes. I think that's in Newcomb, I think. But just beautiful and quintessential when you think of, spring turning into summer. This is another one where I learned a lot. This is the Opalescent River, and I had no idea there was an Opalescent River in the Adirondacks. Yeah, it is a river that eventually joins with the Hudson.
Wow.
But I love the shallow water here. This was fun to do, to try to capture those rocks right below the shallow
And
water.
is this in Western Adirondack Park or is this further north?
No, this is further north.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Another one of the opalescent.
This is interesting for you. I've never seen you do anything inside the woods with the light on a flat ground, mostly what you do has a lot more coming up. So can you talk about this piece a little bit and how you used color to make those flowers really pop?
Yeah, this one was fun to do. A part of the project, I'm primarily a landscape painter, but I also wanted to highlight some of the plant species that grow in the Adirondacks. And the reference that I had for this image didn't really have the sunset going on in the background, or the sunrise. Yes, it was a sunrise. So I kind of took my artistic license and added that. And I did like this perspective of being closer to the ground, kind of looking up over a hill.
This one's lovely.
Thank you.
I mean, they all are. Everybody has their favorites, right?
Yes, everybody. Yeah. Yeah. This is great too. It's another location that I visited in the fall. This is Silver Lake Bog, and there's a nice hike, very accessible trail. But when you get to this overlook, it gets to be a little bit more of a challenging hike. But throughout the bog, they have this extensive boardwalk with little areas to stop and check out the bogs and all the different plants and wildlife there.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. This one was really interesting because what I really love about the Adirondacks is the diversity of the landscape. Now, this location, and it's the name of it is escaping me right now. But I have more detailed descriptions on my website. But it has to do with the type of stone that's there. It's a stone that is not limestone, but it's like some kind of pavement that's naturally formed there that gets really, really, really hot in the summer. And you look at it, it looks almost like somebody paved, like with asphalt, but it's natural.
It's almost like a clay substance. It dries that well.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Wow. Oops. There we go.
Yeah, this is another one of my favorites. I love the water in this one. This was a lot of fun to get the challenge of getting objects that are on top of the water going down below. Mm-hmm. And I'm really happy with the way this one turned out.
Is there a marsh in the middle there?
That's actually the reflection of the
The
trees and
mountain.
mountains.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. This
And
is another. Oh,
this
go
looks
ahead.
like Keene. Is this Keene? Is this going down that road near the pond?
No, this is actually Blue Ledges,
Oh, this is
and this is on the Hudson.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, it's a pretty popular place, but except I didn't really know about it until I did this project. But the cliffs that are there, the rock face actually looks blue. It has that very blue tone to it. And this piece was a lovely challenge because I love a lot of my paintings, has water in them in some shape or form. But oftentimes the water is more deep or more reflective of the sky. And I love this one because it was, it's the water's in shadow of the blue ledges. So trying to indicate that brownish, greenish color was a challenge, but I really, I'm so thrilled with the way this one turned out. This is also one of my favorites.
I think Takeyce, after this, we might be doing some hiking tours and bring some people
Yeah.
around. So get ready, everybody. Get your boots. We're going to go on some hikes. What a great way to do that with a tour master like you. You're learning so much about the Adirondacks.
Yeah. This one is another one where we wanted to highlight some of the plant species that grow in the Adirondacks, and the alpine plants particularly. This one is the Lapland Rose Bay, and it's on the summit of, I believe, Whiteface. And it's incredible to think that, you know, at that elevation, you can have such diverse plants that are just really hardy. And, I think we all can learn a lesson from some of these to kind of, make it through and survive through tough times or harsh conditions.
As we all know right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is very sweet.
Yeah, this one was at Lake Lila. And again, during the project, I tried to challenge myself, and typically I don't include man-made or any indication of humans in my pieces. I try to focus on the landscape and just that reverence for the landscape in its natural state. So adding these two canoes really does, it's just a bit of a change, but I like it because it just, and I remember during the project thinking, the landscape is beautiful, but as humans, we're kind of the stewards to help to take care of it and enjoy it. So this was a nice reminder of that. Oh, this one was a challenge. That was a challenge, painting fog and mist on Elk Lake. Again, this was a photo that was provided to me. And, typically I work from life or I work from my own reference photos. So it's always a challenge when you are working from somebody else's, version or impression of something. So this picture looked very different, and I did a lot of editing and not so much the structure because I wanted people to recognize it as Elk Lake. So I didn't change the mountains but I just kind of cropped and moved things around a bit. And the fog was definitely a challenge, and worked on it for a while and just said, you know what, I can't do any more with it. And actually it was one of the ones that I was least happy with, but somebody purchased it like immediately, like as soon as I posted it. So that goes to show you that sometimes we can be our own worst critic.
Right. And it's great that you get to interpret, and people were comfortable with you interpreting their imagery that they provided to you. So that's really, how do you feel about that? I mean, that's a lot of trust.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And you know, when I started this project, I knew that there were some of these locations that I just wasn't going to be able to get to. So we were fortunate enough that the Nature Conservancy they work with a lot of photographers and different artists who were just ecstatic about participating in this way with this project. So very, very fortunate for them, and appreciate them and their work. Oh yeah, this was the tamaracks, those trees that I find so fascinating, that they look like pine trees, but they're not, and their needles turn this beautiful golden color in the fall. And I got this picture when last October for our anniversary, my husband and I went to visit the Boreas Ponds area, and we took our kayaks out, and I just loved the light. It was pretty overcast that day, hence there isn't a huge lot of contrast in the trees, but it was perfect because it really highlighted those beautiful golden hues in that.
Yeah, and there's just a little bit of those colors in the water just to sort of bring you back up to the direction of the trees. That's really great.
Thank you. This one was a lot of fun. This is the same overlook at Silver Bog Lake. I took this photo when I went on my autumn hike to visit, and the photo had a weird exposure where it was daytime, but everything turned out really dark. So I loved the image, and I thought I would turn it into a nocturne. I said, I'm just going to make it a night photo, and added the moon, and just really kind of played with the values and tried to darken them, but still have it, kind of read where you can recognize the shapes of the mountains and the trees. But this one is also one of my favorite ones too.
It almost looks like it could be either early morning or, it's really nice.
Thank you. This one was fun. This is Spring Bog, and this is a cranberry bog, which is, amazing if you've ever experienced one of those. And I love that I was able to get this just feeling of expanse in this little tiny area. The clouds were a lot of fun to do. Just the playing with the color, and I believe I have a time lapse of this one too being created. And it starts off with a very dark purple ground underneath all that orange. So it was fun to see this one come together. Another one, trying to focus on the grasses that grow on the summit, the alpine plants. This is the view from Algonquin Mountain. It's another one of my favorite ones. This is Blue Mountain Lake sunrise. And this image comes from a trip my family and I took to Blue Mountain Lake a couple of Octobers ago. And I woke up very early in the morning to paint. And I actually did an oil study of the sunrise. And I just loved the way the mountain just kind of glowed with the color, with the golden color of the sun. So this is a piece that I've done a couple of times, and I thought it would be perfect because the Nature Conservancy has done not so much work on Blue Mountain Lake, but also the mountain. A lot of property on the mountain has been preserved. And this is the Moose River, which is another one that I had no idea existed. And I just love the movement that was happening in the water, and the huge granite slab that, I could just imagine sitting there and watching the water go by.
We're getting towards the end here. Are you feeling a
Yeah.
little emotional?
Yeah, I mean, like it really is like a visual journal. It's
Right.
incredible seeing all of these and um, just remembering, the days that either I visited these areas or the days that I painted the pictures. And this is the view from Shelving Rock on Lake George. I had to include some, Lake. Oftentimes people forget that Lake George is a part of the Adirondacks. At least I do sometimes. It's not just the high peaks.
Mhm.
And I thought, we had to get a Lake George piece in there as well. It's one of my favorite places to be too.
Mhm. And day
And the last
29.
one, yeah, this was the Racket River again. We did a few of those, um, and yeah, just wanted to wrap up with some autumn color. And this was a early morning, or yeah, just maybe about an hour after sunrise on the river, and I just loved the light that was shining on the yellow leaves and the reflections. Yeah, it was just a still and peaceful morning. So
So
that's the way we wrapped it up.
so I have a question for you. So a lot of these pieces are very personal. Tell me about what led you down the path to become a creator and start doing some of this work. Have you always, connected this sort of response to your personal life with art? Or, I mean, I don't want to put words into your mouth. I would love to hear what led you down this path to create these amazing documents of the environment that you live in.
Thanks, Belinda. That's a good question. So I've been creative for as long as I can remember. Some of my earliest memories are of me, taking my colored pencils or my crayons and probably drawing on things I wasn't supposed to. In school, I just excelled at art. It was a huge interest of mine, and did a few courses in college, and then primarily most of my education has been self-directed since those couple of courses in college, and I've always been drawn to the landscape and the outdoors. And I think just being, as I mentioned earlier, is that being a busy person, I know myself well enough to know that if I'm not creative or if I'm not spending time in nature, it's just things feel a little off balance. And, my family is the first to be like, hey, you need to go out to your studio, I think. It's been a little while, huh? So, I admire that the landscape um, can have such an effect on my well-being,
Mhm.
and I love to share that with people because I feel that we all just need to realize that we're not outside of nature, that we're a part of nature, and sometimes I feel like we forget that. And it's just trying to get people to just reconnect with that part of ourselves. um since this whole lockdown issue too, I've been kind of going a little bit out of my comfort zone. I did a couple of portraits, and I actually have a few pieces that I want to work on that are more about architecture. So we'll see. We'll see. It's a different kind of fulfillment, I have to say. I think my heart really truly loves the landscape, and that's probably what my work will continue to capture. But it's been interesting trying different things too these past few weeks.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I know that, well, one, we weren't able to show, these pieces that you had amazingly framed by, by Kettlewell and Edwards here in Saratoga. And so, you know, we were waiting on that and waiting on that. We were like, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine.
Oh,
We're
I
going to be able
know.
to show it. So one thing we did do is on the website, we did share on Spring Street Gallery's website some of the pieces that were framed. So you can really see the beauty in having them framed. Because of the COVID-19 limitations, we weren't able to have people at the gallery. And you were also supposed to have another show with these, is that correct?
Yeah, and that show, it's looking more and more that it's also going to be a virtual show. So the idea was for this to be a traveling exhibit. And first, you know, the first stop was Spring Street Gallery, and then we're heading up to Keene Arts in Keene, up in the Adirondacks. And that show is also going to include several, I think 9 other artists who are inspired by the Adirondacks. So yeah, the opening was supposed to be in on June 18th, but I'm guessing that is probably going to be also a virtual exhibit for that one as well.
You'll share that information with me so I can put it on our website so others can go ahead and see this other, you know, portion of this project that you're doing. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited about that one too.
Yeah. So my next question was, what's the future for Takeyce Walter's artwork? I mean, it was really interesting to see some of the work you did that was more portraiture, because I hadn't seen you do that. I remember there was a time when you did a couple self-portraits, and I remember seeing that a long time ago. That was many years ago, maybe 5, 6, maybe more years ago.
Oh yeah.
I think we were just having kids at that point, so it was a pretty long time ago. And so how do you feel coming back to some of that? Do you think you'll stick with it, or how do you think your direction is going to going forward?
Oh, I'm definitely going to, I have so much to learn, I feel, with portraiture. You know, it's when you try to capture someone, there's a likeness that if you don't get it, it's just not, you know, it doesn't work. Whereas, you know, in landscape, you know, a tree is a tree, and you can really, you know, kind of finagle that in many ways. Whereas with a portrait, you really can't. So as an artist, I'm always learning. So that is something that I would love to pursue and continue learning. And I often do sketches. Don't often share them, but I often do sketches, especially of my children. You know, they could be just sitting reading a book or something, and every now and again I'll do a pen and ink sketch of them. Now that I've done the self-portrait of my, you know, and I have it in the house, my husband framed it and put it right next to his bed. Now everybody expects a portrait of themselves. So
in the family?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right. So I have several models to practice on.
There's one other thing. I know that you have also in another hat that you wear, dabble in animation. Would that be something that we would ever see incorporated in some of this work?
That's interesting. It's so funny because for many years, I kept my, like my video, my AV work completely separate from my artwork. And over the last few years, I've actually been tasked to do some illustration work for animations, and I loved it. So possibly there's an artist out there called Dwayne Kaiser. I'm not sure if you know of him. He's an artist based in Richmond, Virginia. And every now and again, he'll put out an animated painting. So if you haven't seen them, you should check them out. But I would love to do something like that, incorporating those two worlds. I think the last one he did was a pomegranate. So he's painting the pomegranate and then painting the pomegranate being peeled or cut with a knife. Oh, wow. But then he edits it, so it just looks like it's pretty incredible. Yeah. So that's something that I would love to take a stab at.
We got a little taste of it when you did some of your animation work where you were time-lapsing, painting some of the work. And so I was like, ooh, she's kind of coordinating the two. Let's see what happens with business. Not that I would
Yeah.
ever want to change, you know, any kind of
Oh,
direction that
yeah.
you're going in, but it's so interesting to see someone like you who's so multi-talented share some of that work without actually like letting too many people know what your talents really encompass.
Oh,
So
that's
anyway, I
cute.
just thought I'd share that. Um,
Oh,
so at this time, I'd really like to open up this conversation to some of you who have been patiently and very, I'm hoping, entertained while waiting for us to have this conversation through some of this work. It is 29 pieces. We didn't get to walk through it as we would normally do together, but we did it virtually. And I think that, Takeyce, you did a wonderful job sharing some of those locations with us. And like I said, we might have to try to put a little walk up every once in a while, or some kind of hike for some of these people and for myself to go see some of this.
sure.
So if there's anyone who has any questions for Takeyce, if you raise your hand, and I will, you know, you can say your name, and or actually just raise your hand and I'll call out your name. You can go ahead and have any questions you like for Takeyce. Not everybody all at once. Cat mother. Yes.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I'm not really cat mother, but my name is Bob Blackman. I live in Troy, and I think my wife named the computer Cat Mother when we got years ago. I never knew it was going to be on the screen, but I do mostly still life work. But all your paintings are beautiful. I think my favorite was the last, number 29, the Racket Lake painting. I love the reflections and the autumn colors that are in that piece. It's just fantastic. A couple of questions. I noticed that they were all pastels.
Yes.
Have you done similar scenes? I'm sure you have in oils. Did you
Oh,
choose to do this series all in pastels?
I did. Hi, Bob. Thank you. Yes. So they're all pastels, and I chose pastels. And for the past, I want to say um, 4 out of the 6 years that I've done my Creative February projects, I've um, decided to use pastel because of the ease of no cleanup. So with oils, if I'm working just a couple of hours a night,
Mm-hmm.
I need to be able to, come out to the studio and grab color as I need it. Whereas with oil paints, a lot, I would probably add maybe an additional half an hour to an hour to the time that it took me to do each piece.
All my work is in oils. I
Oh yeah.
also noticed that your all your pieces were like 6x9 or 6x8.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you normally paint that small, or was this because of this particular program that you were participating in?
I do normally, I would say probably about 70% of my work is small. So maybe 11 by 14 and smaller. As you can see, there's a giant piece behind me. This is a 4-foot
Yeah, right.
square. So several times a year, I'll do several several large pieces like this. But primarily they're small.
Yeah.
They're small. My dream would to work like this size all the time, because
Oh.
I love the idea of having a scene like this on a wall where you can look at it and essentially just everything else melts away and you feel like you're actually in the space.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Takeyce?
I thought I saw Marianne type something.
Oh, Becky, go right ahead.
Okay. Hi.
Hi, Becky. I'm doing well. How are
my name
you?
is Becky Zay. I'm also a local artist. I'm also the exhibitions coordinator at Saratoga Arts, and Takeyce, I've been admiring your work for a long time. I don't even know if I really have a question, more of like a comment, if that's okay.
That's fine.
I just wanted to say my favorite one was the one of Blue Mountain. That place has so many memories for me personally. My family's been going there on and off for over 20 years. So, and I think I know that specific spot looking at the mountain near Long Island, and my dad and I have camped there before, so it just was
That's
bringing back so
great.
many amazing memories. So that was
Oh,
very
that's
nice.
fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, Becky.
great,
That
great
was
work.
one
I
of the
mean, it's
cool
just
things
incredible.
about that project. Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank
absolutely.
you.
And one thing I admire as an artist myself is the amount of work that you make is just so it's so inspiring, because you know, it's just for me, yeah, it can be a struggle sometimes, you know, take the time every day to make something. So I really admire that.
Thank
And
you.
keep it up. Yeah, sure thing.
Thank you.
And yeah, you did one piece a day for 29 days. And I've seen this happen multiple times.
Yes.
So it's very interesting that you're able to keep up with that.
Yeah, it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of, you know, a lot of wrangling and a lot of working with my husband and my kids to say, you know, and I think as they get older, I thought it was going to be really a lot easier, but now they have, you know, activities that they need to be carted off to. So being flexible and being, you know, really creative with my time helps. So, you know, my daughter, when, you know, pre-COVID-19, she's a swimmer. So if I had to take her to her swim lesson, which is like 2 hours, I would bring my pastels with me. And, you know, while she's in there for 2 hours, I'm in my car sketching or, you know, so yeah, it's a lot of creativity, a lot of, you know, discipline and sacrifice. And, you know, there's no Netflix binging in February.
Takeyce, you said there was somebody else who you thought wanted to say something before. Was there somebody else?
Yeah, I thought I saw that somebody, maybe not. Somebody had.
Maria.
Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Nice.
Hi, Maria.
Hi. I loved the tamarack, the ones I was just writing about tamaracks today, so that was great to see that. It's definitely one of my favorite trees. So that was a beautiful one. And the other thing I wanted to tell you was your big ones that are in the Wilton Medical Arts make waiting for medical appointments much more of an enjoyable experience. And you're going to have blood drawn or something like that. You can just sit there and
that's great.
So I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. And I'm hoping someday you'll do something similar on the local preserves and in Saratoga.
Yeah.
I know you've done a lot down on Round Lake, but it would be fun to do like other Saratoga Plant preserves all around the county.
Yeah. Hey, you know,
sounds like we
February
got a
2021
coming up.
Next February's challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking about that. That would be such because you know, I'm connected to and admire so many organizations in this area who are doing amazing work, keeping these places that, you know, as I said, affect my well-being. They inform my work, you know, they help me with my living, you know, with making a living. It would be great to do that, to just have it be something that I do as a part of Creative February every year. Just pick a different organization that's doing this work and work with them. So yeah, we're thinking alike, Maria.
All right.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Well, I have a you know, can you tell us, I know that you've been teaching people online as well, and so can you share with some of these lovely people some opportunities they might have to learn with you? That would be fantastic.
Sure. Yeah, that's another thing that I admire about us as humans, that when we have adversity, we become innovative and creative in finding ways to solve, you know, these problems. So when the stay-at-home orders became into effect. All my in-person workshops had to be canceled. And I was able to do, working with Saratoga Arts and the View Art Center, and also just me, in my studio. I did an experiment actually with a few of my longtime and awesome students. We did a test in my studio to make sure that I could go live in here and not have any technical issues, and they were great. Marianne was one of them. Thanks, Marianne. And we did that initial beta test for that workshop, and it worked out really well. Some minor hiccups in the very beginning, but we figured it out, and we had a nice 2-hour session. And since then, I've done a workshop with Saratoga Arts. That was fantastic. And also, I have a 3-session pastel workshop called Power of Pastels. That's through the View Art Center. And actually, the last one of that is this Saturday. This Friday, I have one workshop that is inspired. It's called Inspired by the Masters, Women of Impressionism. And I thought it would be a great time with Mother's Day coming up. It would just be fun to discuss some of the impressionists whom I've admired and who've influenced my work, and share them with my students. And then everyone will be able to either copy a master painting or work on their own photo, just keeping in mind how the master impressionists worked. And I intend to schedule a few more workshops, and I want to just have a variety of options for people. So I'll work with the art organizations, but I also, I'm open to doing like a mentorship to people. So if people want to learn at their own pace, we can work together, and people have been contacting me about that. So it's been fun, and it's just been interesting how technology can be so amazing. Like, I'm so happy right now seeing all of your smiling faces. It's like you're all here in my studio with me. So that's good.
Well, Takeyce, thank you so very much for taking the time out and doing this with us. I think we all appreciate you talking about these wonderful moments that you're able to highlight for us and just begin to share with us, even though the energy that you share with us in the paintings themselves are unimaginably unexplainable, because you do such a good job with it. You really do. So I really want to thank you so much. Takeyce's work will be online, unfortunately, not up in Spring Street Gallery, but online through the 30th of this month, or 29th of this month. But please, if you want to follow her on Instagram, it's at Takeyce Walter. Her website is takeyceart.com. Excuse me, takeyceart.com. And I really appreciate you doing what you do, helping preserve the Adirondacks with the sales of this work. And everyone can go to Spring Street Gallery, Saratoga.org if you're interested in purchasing any of the work. And again, a portion of those funds will benefit preservation of the Adirondacks. So thank you again, everyone. Thanks again, Takeyce. And
thank you.
And hopefully we'll have more wonderful conversations like this in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Belinda, for organizing
welcome.
all of this. This is great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.